Welcome to Surrender School.
Let me start with the mission statement for Surrender School. At Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions to those who want a healthy relationship with food. Our main focus at Surrender School is for people that have eating disorders. However, we have a lot of people who have found a lot of recovery from other things because it's all about recovery, right? Whatever is your drug of choice. Okay. So I do want to say that we are not an official 12-step meeting, but we do adhere to the spirit of the traditions. That's kind of our goal there. Oops, didn't mean to do that. All right. If Surrender School has helped your recovery, please donate. All of the people that you see working all the volunteer positions, none of us are paid to do that. But we do have expenses like the website and the Zoom thing. And we are having a retreat in Las Vegas in 2026, and there'll be expenses tied to that as well. So if Surrender School has helped your recovery, consider donating. All right, we have a Surrender School WhatsApp group. Lots of information goes out there, so please feel free to go to basically ask one of us. All we need is your phone number, and we can invite you to. Yes, and I know it keeps reminding me to update my computer, which I don't do. It's terrible. I had a friend that used to say, words are your friend. It's like, shut up. All right. Also, sign up for the daily Ennea Thought from the EnneagramInstitute.com. There is no space between Enneagram Institute. You can go out there and it'll give you two. I read those every day and they really do help guide me through the day. All right. Let's take a moment to feel your breath going in and out of your body and to feel your feet on the floor. Let go of anything that's happened before or anything that may happen in the future. Just be present today. Now let's say the simplified set-aside prayer together. God, help me to set aside everything I think I know to leave space for what I have yet to learn. Let me introduce Michael. He is the director of the main Enneagram. I've got to move this out of the way here. Okay. Of the main Enneagram Center for Transformation and Wellbeing. He is a professional change coach and has been an Enneagram Institute faculty member. He is a licensed addiction therapist and clinical supervisor. He has been with the International Enneagram Association as a pro member and a teacher, and he is author of the book, The Alchemy of the Enneagram in Transforming Addiction, and we have, obviously, the monthly book study on that. Today, he is going to be covering type 6. I do want to read at the bottom of his email. He has this. Compassion is not a relationship between a healer and the wounded. It is a relationship between equals. Only when we know our own darkness well can we be present with the darkness of others. Compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity. And with that, Michael, I will hand it off to you.
Okay, and can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so welcome everyone. I'm Michael Naylor, and to talk about the type 6 today, I just want to start with just saying, I've been in recovery a long time, and the reason I wrote the book was because I noticed that people would get a good start in recovery and they would hit shock points where they needed something that actually went beyond the steps. It might be therapy, it might be some kind of healing modality, but that all the inner work that individuals do doing the steps actually prepares them for taking a deeper dive into undigested suffering, anything that is suppressed that needs to come out. And so, I've worked with people a long time, and there'll be, I can just think of numerous times when somebody had a really good run for 15 or 20 years, and all of a sudden depression hit them. The steps weren't working for them, and they relapsed, and they were fortunate enough to get into counseling. And then they always reported, I started doing deep inner work, and it's just what I needed to take on next. My psyche was calling me into the depths to deal with past suffering, anger, sadness, grief, guilt, whatever. So if you think of it, when we're little ones, most of us have to habitually kind of shut our soul down to survive. And over the time, we develop a shell. and we call it the shell of personality. But when that shell starts to break open, all those little hurts and uh, tragic, sad moments that we had to suppress as little ones can pop up. So this can happen at year 4. This can happen at year 16. One dear friend who for 30 years said, the only thing I need is the 12 steps. And then he hit a hard patch and had to go really take a deep dive into his own psychotherapeutic self to get his recovery back. So part of the work, if you read the book, there's, I have a conversation around that the 12 steps actually prepares us to take a deeper dive when the time is ready. And if you haven't yet, that's fine. So that's it. I'm going to bring some slides up here. For the type 6, the courageous pathfinder, the committed security-oriented type. And we've got Eric Clapton, and then we've got that wonderful talk show host, which again, my memory eludes me and it's gone. So if anybody want to speak it out, who is this guy?
David Letterman.
Letterman, yes, he's been in recovery 25, 30 years. Then we got Eminem. And then we've got Ben Affleck, who's also been in recovery and been in and out of the program. And then, of course, Princess Leia, that's how I'll always know her. The rest is just history. So that said, let's talk about the Pathfinder, courageous Pathfinder, sometimes called the loyalist. And we know that type 6s have a real commitment to finding security systems, support systems, so that they have something to rely on. So we say they're the committed, security-oriented type. It's like there's just a natural question they ask themselves in any endeavor. Is there a way this has been done before that's trustworthy? And what could go wrong? And if they're a healthy 6, it's an honest question and a set of, questions that need to be answered in a reasonable way. The more anxious I am as a type 6, the more I'm shut down, the more I start doing something called catastrophizing. That my way of preparing for the next moment is to think about the worst case scenario and to live through it a couple times so that I feel like I'm prepared. I felt the suffering of it. We call that pre-traumatic stress syndrome, where I go and experience the failure of something before it happens. So when I'm healthy as a 6, 6s are often very engaging. They invite you into conversation. They have a natural orientation towards creating a kind of friendship link. They get security out of knowing that, somehow we've connected, we're friends, it's safe here. And so, they have a natural ability to inspire that too. Responsible. Type 6s are responsible in spades. If they commit to something, and they don't do this lightly, when they commit to something, they're all in. And by all in, I mean, you almost have to, pull them off their commitment if it's not good for them, and, and drag them from it because they're so oriented towards staying committed to what they initially committed to. And they're also known very classically as being anxious. A lot of 6s will say that anxiety is just a part of the breath they take in every day. And depending on their level of health and safety, there may be a great deal of anxiety that greets them in the morning, or it might be a lighter version. But anxiety, if you're a type 6 and you're not experiencing anxiety on some kind of regular basis, you're probably not a type 6. So just to keep that in mind. And then as they become less healthy, they start to not trust that they have security, and they start to get suspicious. So, and at their best, the one thing that, there's a lot of comedians. Johnny Carson was a type 6, Letterman, Jay Leno. There's a way that somehow, because they go through so much suffering of worrying and security and all, that they develop a kind of lighthearted sense of humor that, in a sense, calms people down, allows them to feel safe too. So they often have a very interesting sense of humor. So when they're healthy, we say that they're naturally imbued with the essential quality of clarity of consciousness. There's a sense that I can feel and sense on an intuitive level. If there's something wrong, I can pick it up intuitively very quickly without doing a lot of laboring and worry. There's just, it's like a GPS that's naturally there for me as a type 6 when I'm healthy. And when I'm healthy, that means that I've got access to quiet mind. And we say jokingly sometimes that the type 6 has the busiest mind of all the types. And, when we talk about their inner critic, we say most types have a single inner critic, but the type 6 has a rugby team that just teams up on them. There's like 6 or 7 different voices coming in all the time when they're caught up in stress. And if you think of, you know, the maniacal Robin Williams, who was a 7 with a 6 wing, his ability to capture, catastrophic things and act it out and perform it was amazing. So when I'm healthy, my head center is clear. I have this capacity to intuit and to take in what needs to happen next without a lot of laboring. And so I'm known for having a calm, clear awakeness and awareness. Now, that often has to get developed because as little ones, since we grew up on planet Earth with the humans, all of us have had to shut down some of those natural capacities and develop a shell of ego or personality. When I use the word ego, I mean personality pattern. And it's there for one particular reason, which is to protect oneself from suffering that's overwhelming or confusion that is hard to understand. But also the ego is that structure that helps us develop ways of operating in the world so that we can function well and function in our community, in our country, in our state, in our city. So it's often contains a lot of the impressions that we took in as little ones, conditioning we got as little boys and little girls. And it also includes the structure of the Enneagram type. So when this ego forms, a basic fear arises for the 6, which is a being without support, without orientation, and without guidance. And so and in some ways, if that button gets pressed, if all of a sudden I'm not sure of what comes next, a lot of 6s will go into anxiety mode pretty quickly and will double up in terms of trying to create some form of security for themselves. But anxiety and overanalyzing things really becomes the response to suddenly feeling like whatever my guidance was or whatever my support was, it just got eliminated. The secondary fear has something to do with their functioning that allows them to keep connected with their support system. So the fear they have here is of being unreliable. If I'm unreliable, my support systems that I rely on for security will criticize me or may not want to have me be a part of their structure of support. If I'm ungrounded and unprepared, there's this fear that something suddenly is going to arise that I wasn't prepared for and throw me into anxiety. So I get anxious ahead of time around preparing and trying to create almost like a sure thing plan of attack when I go into whatever situation is I'm planning for, whether it's work or with family or relationships. But that secondary fear, of being unreliable and unprepared is the one that they often feel the most strongly. So the basic desire is to find a trustworthy orientation and ultimately to not lose my support. So what type 6s tend to do is because they have this struggle with actually feeling and trusting their own GPS and their own authority, they try to satisfy their anxiety around that by developing external support systems, people they can go to, groups they can go to, so that when they're in stress, they can go and find out, how do we operate in this situation? Or I have a friend I always go to and I ask them, he or she, what needs to happen next, what I need to do to calm down. Of course, as a type 6, I don't lend myself to taking advice very well. As one type 6 said, I don't take your advice and I don't take my advice. That's my predicament. So finding a trustworthy orientation, we all have that inclination. We have the type patterns in some way or another as a part of our own structure, but these type sixes have it big time. It's like they're trying to find that one anchor that will allow them to just relax, whether it's a spiritual path, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a teaching. And they might get 2 or 3 different support structures just so they have some in their back pocket if things don't work out. So my self-image as a type 6 is I am obedient. I follow the rules. I follow through with my commitments. I might rebel against the rules, but I know what they are. There's something called a counterphobic 6 who tends to go into opposition mode with people that they don't trust. So that's another thing I'll mention, but I'm dependable, reliable, careful, and likable. And the 6s I've met over the years all have this kind of likability about them. There's a kind of endearing, welcoming way of engaging that says, I'm here with you, and that we can be friends, and let's find a common ground. And that is one of their, Jedi skills in some ways. They're also very sensitive to people, especially type 3s who are less healthy and have a lot of vanity. And, the healthy type 6 likes to pop the bubble of vanity of other people and bring them down to the same size as they are. I think of all the types, the 6 and the 1 are the ones that stay the most right-sized in terms of understanding that on a fundamental level, we all belong, we all deserve, good treatment, etc. So we say that one of the skills for the type 6 is their ability to be a team player and to form a kind of brotherhood, sisterhood around any kind of endeavor that's going to happen. A great team player, able to lead and also able to play in the background. And if you include a dominant social instinct, then you've got a double whammy of it. But this is a natural capacity that allows them to, in a sense, inspire people to work together and do their best for the good of the group. So that said, let's take a look at the 6, the passion. We call the passion angst or anxiety. On a deeper level, we call it the panic-stricken heart. The sense that I just feel like inside myself there's this panic that's going on when I get triggered with fear. I know a lot of 6s who say, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I feel is a wave of angst and anxiety, and I immediately look for something externally that might match that anxiety, as opposed to just noticing, oh, I've got an anxious feeling and I don't really know what it's about. Maybe I just need to abide with it. But 6s, have quite a great menu of things that could go wrong, so they can attach this sense of angst and anxiety quite quickly to an object of their attention. So we say that the wake-up call is when they're being driven and paralyzed by anxiety, turning attention away to others for authority. So there's a way as a type 6 under moments of fear that I abandoned even sort of listening and feeling my own authority or my own clarity. Or what a lot of 6s will say, when I get scared, I experience this crazy thing where I can't remember or feel my confidence regarding things I've done before that I did quite well. And we call that the amnesia of success. It's like suddenly all confidence vacates and, drains at the bottom of their feet. And there's a sense that I don't have anything to stand on. And it's similar to this idea that I was thinking when I had taken a trip to Barcelona with my wife, and we arrived there. My coach had said, just go to the ATM and you can get money there. Just plug it in, you'll be good. And the ATM didn't work. And I had about $50 in cash, and I needed to get a taxi and make it to my hotel. And I couldn't find anybody that spoke English, which totally freaked me out. It's like, oh my God, I don't have a leg to stand on. And I didn't know what line to get into, and I just felt like I had been abandoned by the universe. And that, in some ways, is how the core fear of the 6 shows up. It's like suddenly there's no guardrails around me, there's no protection, there's no sense of orientation. And it's like I've been thrown out into the ocean, in the middle of the ocean, and I can't tell where land is or what direction to swim in. So if you're a type 6, you probably felt that from time to time. And when I'm caught up in that, of course I'm, starting to feel paralyzed by anxiety. It's like my survival mechanisms kick off. And I know for myself, when I was in that situation, I was thinking, if we don't get some, money that's converted into, uh, euros, we're not going to be able to go anywhere. And I didn't know how to do it, and I got lucky and got in the right line. And but I definitely had a panic-stricken heart, I'll tell you. So the past to presence, we say it's in the direction of the 9. And when the type 6 develops a sense of confidence and presence in their own heart, they have what we call the heroic heart. There's a great deal of bravery. And one of the paradoxes that I've noticed with 6 is that under emergency situations, type 6, who may normally be kind of anxious, nervous Nellies, all of a sudden become almost like a type 8 and can stand up to whatever conflict is going on and really hold the line out of the blue. And then when the conflict's over, they might come back into my office just shaking and baking, going, I don't know how I did that, but I feel so anxious now. But in the midst of the conflict, they were clear and had a clean sense of what needed to happen and could take the right action. So how do we get in the direction of 9 as a type 6? Well, a couple things have to happen. One is I have to develop some way of anchoring a sense of quiet mind. Now, a lot of type 6s will say that when they sit down, they notice a lot of racket in their head center, lots of voices. There's 5 or 6 voices through. It's like a 4-way highway. And the sense of, I'm going to sit here and follow my breath while this highway goes on. Are you crazy? I'll dissolve into a flame of ash in 3 seconds. And so they can't bear the anxiety in the moment. But for some, the way they develop this capacity to, land in quiet mind, where the head center is not like so much like a hummingbird, because the 6s sometimes would say that my insides is like a hummingbird. My mind is looking for whatever might go wrong. Some 6s find that exercise calms that down, particularly yoga. But for every 6, they're challenged to find out what is it that takes me into my body and out of my head in a more direct way. And certainly if you've ever done any kind of lap swimming, you can't hang out in your head that much if you're, going down a lane and you're making the turns and coming back and going back and forth. You got to stay in your body. So anything that keeps the type 6 in their body, they often find that that's something that really works for them. Or the idea of doing a walking meditation, something that allows for movement as they follow their breath. But moving in the direction of 9, what that means is I start to anchor through my body a sense of trust and self-confidence in myself. And it comes through the gut center, and it comes through also a quiet mind, the blend of quiet mind and the gut center being online. And so the challenge for the 6 is, what are the particular things I can do that help me not be eaten by my anxiety and my worry and my tendency, when things aren't completely secure, to start fantasizing the worst possible scenario. So let's take a look at the tube of life. And we've got basically 9 divisions, and each type has 9 levels of health. Okay, so levels of health, levels of presence is what this tube indicates. So level 1, over here on the left, level 1 means that we're in a state of presence and being. The word being is exchangeable with presence, with awakeness, with a kind of clear heart and mind. And at level 2, I'm manifesting an innate natural alertness to be able to pick up on what's going on around me without stress. It's just a natural ability to spot intuitively what might go wrong. I've often heard it said that type 6s can inhabit the 4 corners of the moment really easy. It's like they have eyes in the back of their head. And level 3, which is also a healthy level, My capacity to persevere during difficult times, to not get thrown off by stress, is anchored in my being, and my sense of commitment to whatever it is I want to do is strong and reliable. And there's a way that there's a steadiness to me that is, in some ways, at the healthy levels that can feel quite unshakable. So one of my favorite type sixes is Bruce Springsteen, and he wrote a book. I think it's called Born in the USA. I think that's the name of his autobiography. And in it, he talks about how throughout his life he has struggled with anxiety and depression. And that the odd thing is that when he gets on the stage to perform in front of, 100,000, 200, 300,000 people, which would terrify me, that's when he gets clear and he's in his passion of his music. Music is what takes him out of all of that sort of neurotic, compacted, energized anxiety. So if you want to, read a story about a type 6 and their evolution, he's a go-to guy for sure. So a level 4 is when my personality patterns, my defense mechanisms are triggered, and I'm starting to feel stress and starting to respond externally in ways that might alleviate my stress level. And I'm starting to go more unconscious around what's triggering me. So we say at this level, I begin to indulge in worry, self-defeating thoughts, pre-traumatic stress syndrome, where I habitually replay a scene, feel the angst and suffering if it fails, use that as a way of preparing, and indulge myself in doubting myself. It's almost like if I doubt myself, I'm actually taking responsibility for my situation. Now, it's nothing wrong with doubting oneself, but if you do it habitually, then it stops you from actually being present in the moment. So it really is a matter of degree. And as the type 6 goes down the levels and experiences more and more anxiety build up, their self-doubt button goes crazy. And at level 6, they really sort of give up on any sense of that they know what's going on, and they just, in a sense, bond with some group that might give them eyes to see. So at level 5, the anxiety is increasing, and what happens for the type 6 is the inner pressure deepens. I become more defensive, and I do this thing called mind reading, where I'll have conversations in my head with you, of which you don't know I'm having, that are contentious. And after enough of this inner mind reading phenomena where I'm imagining that you're not liking me and you're going to abandon me, I suddenly react and come out swinging, saying, I know you're going to abandon me. You don't want me around. And you may be sitting there going, oh my God, give me a clue. When did we didn't even have a conversation. Where is this coming from? So type 6s have to be really aware when they're starting to invest in an idea that they know what the other person's thinking, and starts to have run kind of fantasy scripts about what that person, simply by the look they gave them, what that meant, and how they start to sort of go internal and really feed that fear pattern, in which case at some point I come out in an extroverted way and attack. And I've had this happen numerous times with type 6s where they'll just almost jump me because they've been having all this thought conversation with me that I wasn't privy to. So it's just one of the things that 6s have to be aware of in terms of reaching out for help, having a sponsor or a coach or a therapist, that when they start to get caught up in their mind reading phenomena, they have somebody to bounce it off of. So as they go down the levels, they get more reactive, feel less and less safe, don't know what I can really trust. So part of that defense against it is to get reactive as a way of, in a sense, keeping you away, and also just developing a kind of suspiciousness. It's a sense that I don't trust anyone. So levels 4 through 6 we call the average levels. And the thing to be aware of is, as a person is in level 5 and down, starting to get more defensive, more reactive, more inclined towards self-doubting, is they don't see themselves as being in trouble. Everyone else around them can sense the anxiety and can sense the reactivity and would like to help and get them to calm down. But at level 5 and 6, they really go unconscious and actually can start to believe that really they're doing just fine. It's just that you're the problem. And all the types do this, right? So at level 6, all the types become a pain in the neck based on, the level of fear they're experiencing that is in line with their type. So for the type 6, I go from calm, quiet mind at level 1, 2, and 3 and having a secure sense of guidance and a secure sense that I can trust what my impressions are. And as I tighten up at level 4 and my defense structures begin to overwhelm my essence and presence, down at level 6, I instead of being someone who inspires calmness, I think if you read my book, there's one character at the beginning of it who, his capacity to just calm people down and to really create a safe space for them was his gift. But down the levels, at level 6 and below, I become someone who instigates anxiety and fear in people. And again, it's a response pattern. My inner impressions are, is I can't trust you. You're thinking badly about me. I'm a failure. You think I'm a failure. And then I react at some point as the tension builds up. Now, the other kind of interesting thing about the type 6, healthy type 6s have a tendency to not necessarily like the limelight or like a lot of compliments. There's kind of a matter of fact way that 6s are, where someone gives them a compliment, their inner sense is, well, I should have had that handled 5 years ago, so I don't know why you're complimenting me. And I've worked with 6s who, for the longest time, whenever I would compliment them, they would come back with an equal and opposite flaw. It's almost like I'm obligated to let you know I'm not as good as I look. So sometimes there can be a way that I developed this habit of self-doubting and being self-deprecating as a way of feeling like I'm being responsible. And if I get relaxed and don't see a problem, it's like I'm going to be wide open to anything going wrong. So I better have some kind of grip on my worry and what could go badly. So level 7, we go into deep psychological emotional distress, um, where the types get self-destructive, destructive of others. The type 7 is so panicked they can't commit and stay with a commitment. They're like a hummingbird on steroids, and their life is out of control at level 7. Level 8, I'm so caught up in my fear patterns that I start to develop kind of fanatical. It's like I know what I'm against, and everything feels like me against them, and so I'm likely to join some group that that is based on fear-based impressions of people around them. And now I've got a team of people who all feel this fear, and we're against this other opposing object, and that gives me some kind of temporary sense of relief. Now, as I hit level 7, 8, 9, I'm completely out of control. This is where, men and women come into recovery, level 6 and 7, with their drinking or substance use. I often notice that when the 6 arrives in a counseling situation, their sense of not knowing who to trust is really loud and screaming inside of them. So just to finish this up, level 9, self-destructive, self-punishing, punishing of others. And then let's just take a look at the core addiction of the 6. Type 6 identifies powerfully with the need to respond and react to inner anxiety about the perceived lack of support, resists recognizing support and their own inner guidance. So I will notice if I'm running a group, this has happened numerous times, the type 6 will say, I just feel like nobody really supports me. And then the whole group will support them and give them all sorts of compliments and tell them why they're with them. And then 5 minutes later, it's like it just passed through him like wind. And he'll suddenly be saying, yeah, in this group, I just don't feel supported. And I'll say, Tom, do you remember what happened 5 minutes ago? Virtually every man in this group said he had your back. He was with you. He understood. And it's almost like it didn't penetrate him. It didn't get in. It didn't touch his soul. So his fear patterns and what it, generates in his thinking is the dominant force for him. So this inability to recognize support and to trust my inner guidance is a big growth path for the type 6. And we can talk a little bit about how the 6 does that. So path of transformation, maybe I can trust myself and my own judgments. Maybe I don't need to foresee every possible problem. So that said, I went through a lot quickly, and I imagine there might be a few questions. So I wanted to open up for questions, and then I was going to take a look at some of the suggestions for the 6 to help them calm down or at least deal with their anxiety. So what
Sounds
do we
good.
got?
Okay, so we're open for questions now. Terry M, if you can come on camera, if you can't, that's fine. But if you can, do, and go ahead and ask your question or comment to Michael.
Thank you, Cheryl, for the option with my camera. As a 6, I definitely
I was going to say, you're probably a 6.
Yeah. I really, really, really am. Holy mackerel. And I thank you. And I'm also finding such a freedom in finding I'm a 6. Instead of, at first it was like, ugh, I just wanted to throw up the idea. But now I'm embracing it because I have the higher levels at the same time too. It's both and for sure. And
Good.
I've been trying to learn it can be a prison or a playground. That's really helping me. And I know that lighter sense of laughter when I'm really healthy. So this is all just going, yeah. So here's my question, because I'm kind of, the intuitive side of me. Once I'm embodied and grounded, oh my goodness, when the heart and the gut are with the head, it's really, really nice inside here. So what I have found helpful is the parts work, the polyvagal, and the felt sense model, to just shut up and listen to what comes up in my right brain and what's in the subconscious. So I feel I'm on the right path. So Michael, can you take me from here and with seeking trust on the outside? I think I'm on the right road. I'm beginning to trust myself more, but I also look to the outside for affirmation. Hello, I'm a 6.
Yeah, I'm just appreciating what you said. And so tell me some more about the polyvagal stuff. What does that mean for you?
Oh, that means that having a felt sense of safety, revisiting to know what safety is to me on an individual present moment level, whether it's putting my face and listening to the cat purr and purring back to her, to have little aisles of safety, of being able to meet my breath in the moment when it's safe. There's sometimes when it's not, but finding whatever is relatively safe in the present moment helps to befriend my nervous system that is used to being in the rut of between sympathetic and dorsal. Typically, I went through complete burnout. I mean, on all levels. I mean, level 9, I know that. But I've also been very, very well in the upper levels too, and can hold an amazing space if I'm healthy. So with the nervous system, beginning to have this implicit agency to find my own safety in the present moment and hold space in a non-dual way for both, and for being able to hold befriend my nervous system as it is, as well as find safety both in the same moment, seems to balance this Gemini out and this 6 out, as it can become disintegrated and completely disconnected from greater powers and inner resources. But I can tap upon the safe places within my body, which might be my feet in one moment, or my breath in one moment, or my vision. I have to do what I found intuitively is finding a grounding exercises, because the language of the nervous system are my senses. So if I can
Yes.
do a grounding exercises and then become resourced with vision, hearing, become grounded in the present moment in a safe way, man, I am back. I'm back here. So that's what's really helped me from not going to where I feel completely disoriented and disconnected into a world of my own where I can't even find myself.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you're working some good tools that really allow you to land in safety
Whew.
from time to time. So when you think about revealing your face with the video, what comes up for you?
The first thing comes up is a bunch of energy and tears in my throat,
Mm.
and sadness
Oh, okay.
and grief,
Mhm.
because I'm still, woo, here it is. Oh, she's so pretty. Oh, she's very vulnerable. It's a lot of body image.
Okay.
I did a felt sense and I could not believe what my felt sense, what the actual body image came up. I've been through major medical trauma,
Mm.
in recovery. I am scarred, bruised, gain weight. I
Mhm.
have mobility issues, a literal functional freeze, but I do not have chronic pain anymore in my back, and my head has let go. The head and neck pain. This is unbelievable. I have spaciousness in my body. I did not trust my body for a while, but now I'm connected to the body wisdom in the felt
Okay.
sense
All right.
model and the parts work that I've done. But I know I'm going off back to where you were, to this part.
That's all right. Well, look, I want to,
Leave room for everyone else. I understand.
yeah, I want to put you in the parking lot. It's safe out there. And let's have the next
Put me in the
person.
community park, not the
Okay.
parking lot.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank
Or you
you.
can put your feet in the grass, Terry. Okay,
That's right.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm feeling my sits bones right now. It's good.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Terry.
Terry. Richard, to you.
Hi, Michael. Good to
Hi.
see you.
You
So,
too.
my question is, over the course of my life, I've had several friends who have been type 6,
Mhm.
both in the work and also socially, etc. And I've found this is a generalization that I'm making, that it typically with the folks I've known who I believe are type 6, that it's taken a while for them to build up trust. But then what I found is once the trust is there, they're extremely loyal. But there's a flip side to it, which is um, if we conflict seems to explode things the exact opposite direction. I'm the kind of person who will approach if we've had a conflict once things have calmed down, because after all, think about this. I'm a gut type. I'm an anger type. Okay, and I'm dealing with someone who's a friend who is a fear type. And so what has happened, and that's why I believe these folks that I'm talking about are type 6s, is they don't want to go there. They don't want, I approach them to resolve whatever our conflict is, and I get no. And what it's done in general is it's broken off the friendships.
Well, all I can say is it really depends on the type 6 and their level of health. So if I reside at a higher level of health, it means I've got some skills in calming myself down when I get triggered. And so a healthy 6, I could say I've worked with a healthy 6 for a number of years, and she would come up to me during a workshop and say, I'm having the feeling that you don't like what I'm teaching. And she says, I need to say this because I'm thinking it in my head and I just don't know what to do with it. And I say, I think you're doing an awesome job. And she'll say, thank God I can relax. I trust you, and I'll go back and do whatever I'm doing. But getting in an altercation, I think it really depends on, by an argument, level of health, healthier 6s. I think they can go one of two directions. They can withdraw, or they can be kind of battlers and get into battle and be kind of tenacious too. And the healthier they are, the more quickly they're going to be able to calm down and come back to a normal state of presence. So it all depends on what their sort of natural level of anxiety is on a daily basis. You know, if I'm somebody who kind of lives now at level 5, that means I've already got anxiety kicking around. And then, you know, the way I work with it is I get really loyal with someone, I bond with them, I'm with them all the way. But if there's a separation or a break in the relationship, I can go into freak out mode. So again, it just depends person by person. Thank you. Are we done with
Okay,
questions?
well, I have a comment and then a question that I want to ask. Okay, so for step 5, we did something instead of going to your sponsor because we're working it differently in the supercharge class. We had people be kind observers. And so what happened during the kind observer, if people had, there were several people who worked with more than one person and almost across the board. It's because they were asked to by someone, and almost all of them, Jennifer, Linda T, Wendy, Kim, are all 6s. And it's like the 6s were the ones that people wanted to go to, which I just thought was like, because I love all of them. I love them. They're wonderful people. And it was so cool to see. And I'm like, I'm not the only one that sees that they're wonderful. They're all very healthy 6s. And I want to ask about that to have to do with like wanting to like, because some of this was very deep sharing. And for these people to sense in the 6s, I guess I mean, I don't know enough about the Enneagram to say, yeah, of course it would be 6s, but it was delightful, but it was really interesting, I found.
Well, I've found for 6s who have done some inner work and have dealt with their insides and have been consciously grappling with how their fear patterns affect them, that they have like a natural wish to be a field of calmness for other people and welcome, you know, so they end up being people who other people go to talk about their troubles because there's this kind of laid back welcoming and they know what it's like to be in turmoil and suffering. And so there's a compassion there that they've developed, you know, from going through their own personal suffering. And that, again, if they've been doing inner work, you know, it's like, here's somebody I can trust because 6s are trustworthy. They'll hold space for me. You know, it's kind of like the type 4. There's nothing too alien to them in the human experience. There's a way that they've really had to deal with their inside emotional states. 4s and 6s, I think, have to do that the most. But that'd be my answer.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, Joy, you have a question? Go ahead, or comment.
Uh, I have I have a couple comments actually, and maybe you'll find a question in there. Um, so just what you were talking about, Cher. There, I have lots of friends in program these days, and there's one specific area that seems to be right now deeper than all the rest. And who did I want to go to? A 6, right? Kim, actually, she's here. She is the safest person for me. And now I have a husband too, but this and by the way, for the first time, he joined me today. He was here. He just left. He said he had to use the restroom, but he listened to the whole thing, and he's a 6, which is it took him a couple years to come to the Enneagram. We were introduced to it 8 years ago. But here's my comment, and what I hope it does is actually help people who are in relationship with 6s. I find this true more of the men than the women. I'm not sure. Um, Even in our therapy, that by the way, my 6 husband would never go to therapy. There was not even a shot, right? But for our son, we went to therapy, and the therapist is the one who introduced me to the Enneagram.
Oh,
So, like I said, it took him 2 years. Okay. So even in the therapy, it was identified, these questions that he would ask seemed to be for 30 something years, but I changed the story about them very recently, rhetorical and prosecuting questions, which as a two, the way that I describe those questions to me and to my four son was like a knife through my heart.
Mm.
Every single time, the questioning of my intentions, or even when my intention was really good, right? He would see them as attack and use his words as weapons against me.
Well, and that's just to break in here for just a second. I have noticed, depending on the level of health, that if I reach out to help a six, that it gets interpreted as if I was trying to do something bad to them. And this is down at level 5 and 6. So it's like, kindness is received with, oh, there's suspicion. And it might be suspicion followed with accusation, blaming. The six under a lot of stress is known for really anchoring the ability to blame the other person. And it's just where they go under stress. And it's like that's how I protect myself, because there's also this sense that maybe I did something wrong and I don't have room to accept that. But use the word prosecutorial, which is quite a word. What does that mean for you? Is it accusation, or is it like trying to prosecute you and figure out
Yeah.
you're on the stand?
Yeah, is it true that this is this?
Uh,
Yeah, do we agree this? Now, let me tell you what's happened. So, and I turned against myself because I I changed the story that I'm telling myself about these questions.
oh,
And it has made, now this is just very recent, Michael, doing step 6 and 7, right?
mhm, mhm,
I changed the story. And now, when those questions are answered, and it was because my six was willing in therapy to reveal the heart, right?
mhm,
Behind it. And what his comment was when you answer a question honestly, when you answer these questions, it has value to me. It makes me feel close to you.
mhm.
So now, when he first said that, I was suspicious. I was, I've lived with the sarcasm for so long, and
Yeah, sarcasm. Yeah.
so, but it was revealed that it really, really is true. It
Mhm.
really, really, and so now, whenever those questions come up, whether it's to me or my son, I'm like, he wants to be close. Well, and I see
Yeah.
those prosecuting questions as
Mhm.
a desire to make sure we're on the same ground. That's where he finds the connection.
Yeah.
To me, as a
Mhm.
two, what does that mean? Love. He's seeking love, which is
So, Joy, I'm going to interrupt you because we really do need to move on. Thank you so
okay.
much for sharing
Thanks,
on that.
Joy.
Thank you.
So where are we moving to?
To whatever you want to talk about, Michael. I don't know. I just felt the need to interrupt. So,
I have a
Okay.
question.
Okay.
You were going to give suggestions for the six.
Yes, that's what I'm going to go to now.
thank
Uh,
you.
and so let's see.
Lisa, we'll catch you on the way back if that's okay.
Okay.
We'll get you in the parking lot.
That's right.
So in the book, there's 5 or 6 questions that really focus around how do I help the six when they're caught in worry or anxiety. So the first one is make friends with your worry habit. And the six may realize that worry runs through him or her unbidden as if it has a life of its own, which many times it does. It's a part of his psychological hardware, a program that runs whether he wants it to or not. So a lot of sixes have developed just a habitual flow of worry and suspicious thoughts that pop up when there's any kind of stress on them. And the healthier they are, the more they can talk about it and not react with it. So what you can do, to help him make friends with his worry is give the worry pattern a name, an identity, a face, a size, a gender, and then declare out loud, whatever you've named it, Voldemort, Frankenstein, Dracula, is back and running worry scenarios through my mind. Have mercy. So there's something about, if you've identified what this worry pattern is with some kind of external object, Voldemort, Frankenstein, Dracula, noticing it and even speaking to it out loud can take away some of the intensity and the way that one gets glued to the worry pattern, because sixes have this habit of taking very seriously any kind of worried thought that goes through their stream of awareness, right? It's like Mayday, Mayday. I just had this thought about maybe I'll get a flat tire. Maybe I won't have money for groceries. And it's like, well, it rattles their present sense of ease and clarity and calmness, and they feel like I must take care of this worry. So part of the pattern for the six is to learn to notice, oh, there's a worry thought. I'll just let it go. I see it. I named it. Voldemort's at it. I'll come back to the present moment, find my body, find my breath, and do the next thing I need to do. So remind him that his mind tends to be a worry machine, and that his job is to relax his attention to the flow of worry thoughts, which means not identifying with them and taking them so seriously. And this is where, in a counterintuitive way, so many comedians develop this, kind of amazing sense of humor around the human condition, because they've gotten some distance from identifying with all the thoughts, or part of their work is to create humor around what drives them crazy. Now, look at Woody Allen and all of the crazy stuff that he created, where he takes his neuroses and makes movies out of it. He's still neurotic as hell, but he has a creative outlet for it. So invite this meditation. Sit quietly, sense your body, follow and sense your breath. When a thought arises, label it. For example, worried thought about my job. You notice it go through your stream of awareness, and and you let it go, and you come back and you begin to breathe and follow your breath again. Shortly after that, another thought will arise. Label it thinking. Thinking I'm wasting my time. That's going to be a big one. I'm sitting there and all of a sudden the voice says, you're wasting your time. This is a ridiculous waste of time. And you notice it. Oh, thinking this is a waste of time. I don't fight the thought. I just bring my attention gently back to my breath. Whatever the thought, feeling, or impression, gently label it and let it go. Remind him that he will begin to have moments of quiet mind, which frankly will freak him out. If all of a sudden my head center gets calm, it's like, oh my God, I'm not prepared. Oh, there's a worried thought. It's like the worry, in a sense, can begin to equate with I'm preparing myself and being responsible, which is what type sixes want to be. They want to be prepared and they want to be responsible. And quiet mind, which again is going in the direction of 9, where everything gets still and I can trust the quiet moment, is going to be a growth edge for them, because they will freak out when that starts to happen. So remind him that he will begin to have moments of quiet mind without trying, and that he is learning to detach from identifying so strongly with his repetitious worried thoughts. And, it's almost like having this belief and understanding that my thoughts actually most of the time have nothing to do with me. They're just like racket spinning through my brain. And if I can just notice, oh, it's just going like mad, but I don't have to stop and halt and look at every one in detail, then I'm going to have a lot quieter presence. So this meditation will help him to not so magnetically be drawn to his thoughts, to have some space and distance to notice and return to the present moment. In time, he will begin to experience quiet mind. And so the positive part of this, I started meditation and doing this meditation years ago because I would be standing in front of somebody and they would say something and my head would just start rattling off thoughts, so I couldn't no longer follow them. And I would realize a couple minutes later that I'd lost the train of thought of what they were saying because I'd gotten so consumed in my thoughts. So I started doing this practice 10 minutes a day. Thought comes, I label it. Thought about supper tonight. Okay, back to my breath, following my breath in and out of my body, sensing my body. Here comes another thought. And over time, my mind would suddenly have these moments of just becoming completely still. And for longer periods of time, it was more sustainable. So it's one technique. So I'm wondering here with our beloved group, has anybody used a meditation that has been useful for them? Type 6, we've got Wendy here. I'd love to hear what her take is on sixness and meditation.
Okay.
All right.
I can really relate to the thinking. I do that. I wake up anxious, just not extremely anxious, but I wake up and almost always there's something there. And what you said, what I found helpful is I get out the door as soon as possible and do walking meditation and prayer.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
And that just really sets me in a good way for the whole day. And along my way, I stop in the park and do a meditation. And I find that it's the thinking is constant. And I heard a lady one time was really helpful. It's not exactly what you said, but it was really helpful. She said that even the most mature experiences, meditators still have thoughts, and that it was okay just to have the thoughts, look at them, and then go back to the body or the surroundings.
Yeah.
And so I've been using that, and that's really helpful. And at some point, the thoughts do quiet down, and unless there's something going on, and then I'm in my planning mode, anticipating the problems, thinking the worst about everything and everyone. And what's really my first sponsor told me, she said, Wendy, if you're having conversations with someone and they're not there, just stop it. It was so funny. I always laugh when I say that, but I really do that a lot. And sometimes I say things out loud and there's nobody there. And I went to one of my meetings. I just mentioned that, that I was concerned about that before I started all this. Anyway, and I just mentioned, does anybody else have that problem? And everybody just sat there with their mouth closed, just looking at me. And I thought, oh shit, no one else has this problem. Anyway, so that's really everything that you've said. I think I really am a 6, and yep, I do all these things. And your suggestions I find also helpful. So,
Awesome.
do you have any questions?
Yeah, well, so how do you notice when you've been triggered? Like what happens in you internally? When fear gets triggered, you feel it in your body? Is your head center go off the rails with catastrophic thoughts? And just how do you wake up to it?
It hits me in the gut.
In the gut.
Yeah.
Okay.
My stomach, it feels like it's in like a fist.
Yeah.
Or somewhere in my chest, I feel like something's squeezing.
Yeah. Now panic-stricken heart.
And then I go immediately to racing thoughts, searching for the immediate action that's required.
Yeah.
And, further planning, so immediate action needed, potential problems that can develop, the
Yeah.
conversations
Boom,
come in.
boom, boom.
I'm
Yeah.
fixing it. I'm telling you how come and what for. Uh, but what I've found when I ruminate like that and I have those conversations, it's really, I realize from doing the racket, it's my ego. And when I practice those conversations, I'm often likely to say that to that person in the future, and it's
Oh,
almost always wrong.
oh, isn't that interesting? What a great discovery.
So I'm really becoming more aware that these conversations in my head, if it's negative, it's probably 99.9% of the time not true. Or the other 1%, I'm projecting something about myself on that person.
Yes.
That I probably should stop whatever the train of thought is as soon as possible, because it's just going to scare me, make me unhappy, or say something I shouldn't say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of awareness and that you notice, it's like noticing the machine of your personality. It just does this thing and spins stories. And then all of a sudden you're having conversations in your head and you're suspicious. And then later on you discover, oh, it wasn't accurate. But part of it's just learning to watch that and not beat myself up for it, because you've probably been hardwired like this since you were a little girl, I imagine. And, trying to keep things secure, do the right thing, not upset anybody. I mean, when you were a little girl, how did this show up in you when you were, what do you remember about being a little girl or a teenager and being a six?
Well, I became, for whatever reason, I was a juvenile delinquent. So
Okay.
I started smoking when I was 10 and
Oh,
stealing. I
you were a
used to
rebel.
take my mother's car on little tours when I was 10.
Yeah.
I had my first car accident when I was 10.
Whoa.
I, I started drinking. Alcohol was my main drug, but
Yeah.
so I became extremely rebellious and defiant.
Well, that,
Defiance,
mhm,
strong
mhm.
quality for
So
me.
then we'd call that one of the qualities of the counterphobic six, isn't, it's just sort of taking on things that are scary or that shock people. And it's not unusual at level six for the type six to become kind of rebellious and reactive and do things that break the rules, even though maybe in their heart of hearts they wish they weren't doing it. But that's great stuff. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And
Thanks,
Lee,
Wendy. And Michael, Lisa H has a comment or question.
great. Thanks, Wendy.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for everything that you shared. Boy, I just felt like you read my mail when you were talking about what it is to be a six.
Mm, mm.
And there's a part of me that almost feels emotional over the idea that uh, so just like the fact that I'm a food addict or I'm an alcoholic is not something I created, it's something that I am. Trying to understand that this anxiety and fear that I feel is not something that I created. It comes with me naturally. Um, and so I was really thinking about, how much of this is just being aware so that I can work around this in my life, and versus when is it necessary to say talk to a professional, because I have not wanted to go to counseling. I have not wanted to open the can of worms. I want to think that my life is pretty amazing and
Mhm.
have had great experiences, but I realize that I carry a lot of that with me. And man, I often make the comment to my spouse, I am so tired of being in fear and anxiety. And a lot of people would not think that that's who I am because they
Yeah.
look at all the things that I've done.
Mhm.
But there are things in my past that as a young person I'm afraid to go into public hiking places where other people can get accessible access, where I could go out and hike 10 miles into the mountains where I have no fear, because I'm not
Yeah.
going to run into anyone out there. That's how I think
Oh,
about it.
yeah.
And so there are things that have happened that have created fear. And I just don't know if it's really worth going back with, or if I just need to start realizing this is what I am and continue to work on it. I'm grateful that I have a spouse that really understands
Oh.
that I have that fear, and
Mhm.
that I am that person that wants to know where we're going and what we're doing and what we're going to do when we kind of get there. But I try to relax about everything. But I
Yeah.
used to be a mess when it came to those things. The control was off the charts because of my anxiety and fear.
So
Um,
what is it that helps you calm down? Is there anything in particular that you
well,
do that helps you chill out?
I really like what you said, and I know that this isn't something I'll probably be able to do for the rest of my life, but the exercise is a big thing. I've
Mhm.
come to realize that I got into mountain biking a few years ago, and when I'm out there doing that for an hour and a half, I am not thinking about anything else.
That's
I am
awesome.
completely right there in the moment. So when it's the thing that really takes it out. So when I do things like that or go skiing, it's something where I'm doing something really physical and I'm really in it, that I am not anywhere else. Um, but I thought I just like the fact that I'm understanding this just may be just a part of who I naturally am, and I have to learn how to work with it, because I don't want to wake up in the morning feeling like I have anxiety already. I want to have a
Mhm.
faith that says, I'm okay. I really am okay. I
Yeah.
don't have anything that I should be that afraid of. So it's just a,
Well, one of the challenges is, those fear patterns, you didn't create them. So they greet you in the morning, and then there becomes a question, well, what is it I can do that allows me to navigate that and calm it down? And so sometimes, if you have a spouse or partner and you can talk about it, that can release some of the anxiety. That's where, if you've got a good therapist or counselor, sort of talking these things through, on some kind of regular basis can start to calm things down too. And just being in the presence. I think the other thing that I've noticed is that just being in the presence of people who have a calmness about them, that sometimes that can be contagious.
yeah.
So just noticing who are the people, that when I'm in their atmosphere, sitting close to them, that I start to feel some of that energy. Does that
Yeah.
resonate for you?
Yeah, it does. And honestly, the person I'm married to, I feel very much that is a calming presence in my life, really, and an
Beautiful.
understanding presence. And so, yeah, and this person also takes part in going to counseling, and I often poo-poo it and think that I don't need to go there, and I just want to go forward. But
Well, if you think of it, going to counseling may be something that does move you forward in terms of just giving you opportunity to relax some of your worry patterns. And it sounds like that when you think about going to therapy, that's just like going backwards or something, or not making progress. But I see it as one of the doorways for relaxing my patterns and just developing some more skills around stillness and calmness. So it might be something just to experiment with and just see if your perspective changes, because I think sixes have a lot. It sounds like, the hard part about initially starting counseling is feeling maybe a sense of shame, or that I feel defeated or something. And as I've been around for a long time, and my need to have a healthy counselor in my life has not disappeared. I've
okay,
put years in, so there's no defeat. So I just encourage you to give it a try.
okay. Thank you, Michael. Thank you
Yeah,
for
Thank you,
yeah,
Michael.
thank you
So,
for sharing.
so
Thank you.
Michael, I know you need to leave at 10 till, and we're about 5 minutes away from that. So I don't know if there's other things that you want to cover.
Well, let's see. Let me just go to another suggestion. And of course, these suggestions are all in the book. Um, and now it disappeared. Where did it go? Let's see if I can find it. Doesn't seem to want to be popping up. Well, I have a mystery here.
So maybe go to view and see, because we see it.
Oh, you do?
We do.
Oh, how interesting. How come I don't see it? Oh, I see.
So-
You have the view right there. There's me.
Maybe go to, let's see, you can do side-by-side gallery or side-by-side multi-speaker.
Okay,
Maybe-
that's a good idea. Let's see if
Yeah.
we get side by side. Multi-speaker. Okay, it's a mystery. So let me do this. I will just take a look right from the book because I have it here.
Okay.
So the next one is just, it says, notice your bargain with worry. The six unconsciously develops a belief that if he worries enough about things, he will be prepared. He must unpack this belief about worry and what drives it. So try these suggestions. Ask him what he believes about worry. For instance, does he believe that if he is anxious and worried, that he will be safe and okay? And that's one of the really terrible paradoxes that the type 6 goes through is when they start to notice, oh, I have these belief structures that if I'm in a state of anxiety, uh, especially if there's something I need to do, to accomplish, to complete, I unconsciously start to feel like if I'm not in that anxious state, I'm not ready. Now, the problem with that is that it conditions me to be in a state of anxiety all the time. So when I wake up in the morning, I feel anxious and don't know why. And then I start looking around for a target. And of course, if you live on planet Earth, I think we're living right now in the exact sort of world situation that would terrify most sixes because there's so much unpredictability that's going on. And this is like the horror of the type 6 is not having a place to rest and feel secure. So the challenge can be, can I learn to actually prepare for something without succumbing to just filling myself with anxiety as a way of feeling like that prepares me. And that takes a lot of time for type 6s to begin to disengage from. So let's see, does he believe he will end his worry by worrying? Does he believe his worry will stop bad things from happening? Does he believe that he demonstrates responsibility by engaging in worry, that it makes him a better person? And there's something about just acknowledging, oh, I do have this kind of belief system, and talking with it with a sponsor or a counselor or a coach, which, by the way, I didn't mention, but this is what I do for a living is I coach people. And they come in with their particular type issues, and we work out a plan for how to start relaxing them. So that's my advertisement for coaching before I go. Challenge him to notice when he's caught in a state of worry, why he thinks it's valid. This will help him notice what you could call unnecessary suffering he causes him or herself. So again, there's something around noticing I have a belief that like worry is my friend and I'll do better if I worry. And so what happens for type 6 is they'll say when they're preparing for something that they over prepare. They go over whatever they're preparing for over and over and over as a way of trying to alleviate their anxiety at the same time building it up. So, these things are challenging. And again, it really helps to have a person you trust that can remind you that you don't need to stay in that state of worry all the time. So help him to see that the challenge is to develop a quiet mind and a willingness to let go of worrying as a way of propping up a sense of weirdly crafted false security. So if you don't have the book, I encourage you to get it. There's 6 or 7 more suggestions for the type 6. And, part of the work is just to find out, well, what is it for me that allows me to quiet down, and what's the story inside of me that says that I must worry? So that said, I could probably take one more question if there was one.
All right. It looks like Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, because what I noticed when I looked at Dan Siegel's, I listened to a podcast that was really neat. That as a
Yeah, I think
6,
he's a type 6, I think.
he is, and it was so comforting.
There's
It
the book.
was,
Yes.
it was comforting, but I know that certainty is my big issue, and that the energy is like neither inward or outward. It's dyadic, like in other words, and that I have a tendency to repress. And I think that has a lot to do with like the repression and that polarization that I always feel as a 6. Okay, that can go between worry and anxiety, the anxiety inward to wanting to push it outwards. Now, the other thing is, how can my wings help me? I know you mentioned 9, but I'm also thinking about like how my wings can help me, because I notice with those others, there's anger and shame. I have the fear repressed, but I'm also repressed in the other wings for anger, and I'm repressed for shame. So I'm really doomed with repression and having a little bit of both, that polarization. I don't express it outwards or inwards. It's both that rattles. So I'm curious how my wings can help me.
It would require a big answer, but I would say the simple one is that I have at least one person in my life who, when I'm feeling shame, I can say it out loud. I'm in a state of shame right now, so that there's permission, there's no judgment, doesn't need to be analyzed, but this ability to just declare it in the moment, because that's what stops the suppression. If I come forward and I'm authentic in the moment, I'm feeling really angry right now and I feel it in my body. You can't suppress it if I'm feeling it and talking about it. So anything that begins to break that habit, but also isn't dumped on anybody. It's just a matter of being in the state of that you're experiencing. So that's where the body practices of learning, if I'm triggered by anger, what I first do is go right into my body to find where that anger is. And I bring my attention out of my head center into my body. So I start to, in a sense, digest that angry energy and not push it away, not kill it, and not act it out. So that's my short answer for now. So thank you for the question. All right, Cheryl.
All right. So Terry, thank you. Michael, thank you. And I know you need to leave. I know you could talk
I
like
do.
more and more and more, but you need to go. So we love you. Thank you so much for being here. Take care. And I'll hang out. If there's other questions or comments, we'll hang out for a few more minutes. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. Be well.
Bye, Michael. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Good to be with
Thank
you.
you so
Bye,
much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for recovering with us.